What's going on, duelists? It's your boy Nick, bringing you today on the channel for the very first time my Fire King deck profile for the post Fire King structure deck, which at time of recording officially releases tomorrow. So if you haven't already gotten your copies of the structure deck from your local OTS, then by tomorrow you should be able to head over to your Target or local Walmart or any other store that sells TCG product to be able to grab yourself copies of this amazing structure deck. The structure deck, fresh out the box, is already very powerful, but with a couple of cards that we recently got out of Age of Overlord, and with more support we're getting in the future come Phantom Nightmare early next year, this deck is going to be one heck of a menace, not only on the format, but at your local scene. It's going to be everywhere. And as such, I wanted to bring it to the channel for the very first time. Fire Kings have never been featured on the channel, but after doing my research and getting more familiarized with the deck, I absolutely fell in love with the theme, and I can't wait to show you guys what I've cooked up for you today. So for those of you new to the channel, welcome. My name is Nick. We do Yu-Gi-Oh content mainly focused around rogue and casual decks alike. If that's the kind of Yu-Gi-Oh that you're interested in, then I highly encourage for you to subscribe to the channel. We are working our way to 1,500 subscribers. We just passed the 1,250 mark, and I need your help to get to that 1,500 goal. So if you're watching this right now and you like, really interesting Yu-Gi-Oh decks such as this one here, then subscribe, like the video so it continues recommending my videos for more people to see. And yeah, with the intro out of the way, Fire Kings. Fire Kings are an archetype mainly comprised of Fire Beast Warrior, and Fire Wing Beast monsters, of which moving forward I'm going to just refer to as tri-types, just to make it easier to say. So it's comprised of mainly fire tri-types, and the deck generates advantage off of destroying its own cards, which sounds counterproductive, but the way it does it is very, very cool, and it's a mid-range deck. It's neither combo or control. It kind of threads that fine line in the middle, and it's just overall a very fun deck to play, and the brand new structure deck that came out really boosted the consistency and the ceiling of the deck overall. So with that being said, we're going to dive headfirst and land straight onto the Fire King Island itself, because we have a fresh 41 card main deck for you here, and we're just going to dive right into it. So we start things off with just 2 copies of the brand new cover card himself, Sacred Fire King Garunix. He is a fire level 8 wing beast effect monster with 2,700 attack and 1,700 defense. And I'm just going to summarize what he does. Basically, if a fire monster you control is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can special summon this card from your graveyard or the hand, which is very, very powerful. In addition to that, when this card is normal or special summoned, you are able to destroy a fire tri-type from either your hand, your face-up field, or your deck, which is absolutely bonkers. Like, this boosts the speed and overall the ceiling of the deck tenfold. And then when he destroys a fire tri-type, he gains half of the attack of that destroyed monster until the end of the turn, making him a very big beat stick and overall an amazing card. You don't need to max out on it, in my personal opinion, just because, like, once you have one in rotation, he just continues to recycle himself from the graveyard over and over again every time a fire monster is destroyed, whether that's by battle or by card effect, or by your own effect, or by your opponent's effects. So it's very difficult to play around this card, and I think having it as a 2-of in this deck is perfect as far as the ratio is concerned. Moving on, we have a playset of the brand new Legendary Fire King Ponix, the sweetest of boys. He is brand new to the theme, and he is a level 1 Fire Wing Beast effect monster. An amazing card. Basically what he states is that if a monster that was originally fire is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand, which is obviously very strong. Then if this card is normal or special summoned, you are able to add a Fire King spell trap from the deck to your hand, and then during the next standby phase, after this card was destroyed by any means and sent to the graveyard, you can actually activate this effect to add this card from the graveyard back to your hand. So not only is this card an incredible starter for the deck and or extender, but it also searches you the spells and traps that were previously unsearchable, as well as recurs itself every single turn. Like, this deck is going to have an amazing grind game. Fire Kings is a very mid-range style of deck. It's neither combo or control. It definitely threads that fine line between both. and it grinds really well, has an insane resource game, which is very fun. So we max out on the legendary Fire King Ponix. The fact that he is level 1 does synergize quite nicely with the Diabell Star package, which I will say that we are playing in this deck. This is not a budget list, unfortunately. If you do want a budget list, you can definitely play the Tri-Brigade package, or a Nadir Servant package, which I can dive a little harder into when we do the combos and test hands in another video. But anyway, moving on with the current deck profile, we do have 3 copies of Fire King Avatar Arvada. This is one of the best normal summons in the deck. It effectively functions as a monster negate, but instead of negating and destroying the opponent's card, it negates and destroys a fire monster either you control or that you have in your hand, except himself, which is very interesting as far as card design goes. There's not many cards in the game that function that way, because obviously your Fire Kings generate advantage when they're destroyed, which is very strong. On an 1800 body, very nice for a level 4 monster, but in addition to that, if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can target one fire tri-type in your graveyard except himself and special summon it. Its effects are negated, but it is destroyed during the end phase. Now that seems like not that important, but that graveyard effect that this card has is absolutely insane, very invaluable to the deck overall, in my personal opinion. So you definitely want to max out on a playset of the Fire King Avatar Arvada, especially since he's a monster negate, helping you play through stuff like Ash, Valor, Nib, is obviously very strong. Then, brand new out of the structure deck, we have a playset of Fire King High Avatar Kirin. This card is pretty much written like a custom card, has 2 very important effects. The first effect being that during the main phase as a quick effect, you can destroy one other fire monster either in your hand or face-up field, and if you do, special summon this card. Keep in mind that is a quick effect, which means that if your opponent likes to have like targeted interaction against you, you can dodge out of it with this card by destroying whatever card they targeted. So like if you normal summon Ponix, activate effect, they chain Imperm, you can chain Kirin from hand, popping the Ponix, special Kirin, their Imperm fizzles, and your Ponix still resolves off field. But because you destroyed a fire monster, that could potentially trigger so many other effects for you, like with the cover card of the set, the Sacred Fire King Garunix that we talked about initially. So Kirin does that in the hand, making him somewhat of a hand trap of sorts. Almost like a Havness, I guess it would be a way you could describe this card. And then in addition to that, he also has an effect when he's destroyed by any means. You get to special summon a Fire King monster from your hand or graveyard except himself. Then you can destroy one card on the field, non-target. That is all one effect. The summon and destruction occur in the same sequence, similar to how Trias Hierarchia works in my generator list. If you've watched those videos, it's all one effect. It doesn't special summon and then on a new chain pops. It specials and destroys a card all on the same chain, which is very powerful given that that's a graveyard effect and it's hard to interact with. So we max out on Kirin. In my opinion, he's probably the best new card that this deck has. Moving on to our one-ofs. One copy of Fire King Avatar Ringbali. Special summons himself from the hand if a fire monster is destroyed. And he is your spell trap negate in the sense where your Arvada is your monster negate. But similar to Arvada, he negates a spell trap, but then destroys another fire that we control or have in our hand. So he negates and then destroys our own cards, which again, just pluses us in the grand scheme. One copy is more than enough though, in my personal opinion. Followed by one copy of Fire King Avatar Barong. Barong is back from the original Fire King support. Another great level 4 Beast Warrior monster. And again, if a face-up Fire King monster you control is destroyed by a card effect, you can special summon the Barong from the hand. Then once per turn during the next standby phase, after the Barong was destroyed, you can add any Fire King card from the deck to your hand. So as a one-of, this card is a great searcher for you on the following standby, just helping you recur resources, or not recur resources, but gain new resources directly from your deck to your hand on the following standby. Very great card to keep looping back and forth and getting pluses off of it every single turn. Then we do play one copy of Fire King High Avatar Garunix. This is their old boss monster. Now, a lot of people aren't playing this. Personally, I think this card is absolutely fine as a one-of. Basically, during the next standby phase, after this card was destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this card from the graveyard. And if you do, destroy all other monsters on the field. This is basically a free dark hole that you can pop from the deck with your brand new Garunix. Then on the following standby, this card will summon itself and nuke every other monster on the board. That is a very powerful effect, especially if you can continue doing that. Yes, I'm aware that like usually destruction effects are some of the worst type of removal in the game, just because there's a lot of cards that generate advantage when destroyed. But honestly, if you can destroy monsters your opponent controls and pretty much do that every single turn, they're gonna run out of resources at a certain point. But we're not, because Fire Kings just benefit off of all the destruction that's going on. In addition to that, if this card is destroyed by battle, he pretty much special summons any Fire King from your deck, which is obviously very, very strong. So I think it's a one-of. It's perfectly fine. I think once Phantom Nightmare comes out, obviously we're going to be getting more cards that help make the deck even stronger. And then I think at that point, there's no need to run this card. But for the time being, out of the structure, I think this card is fine as a one-of in the main board. I think it has a lot of value that I feel like a lot of players are overlooking right now. But moving on, like I said, we do play the Diabellstar package in this deck. It is not budget, unfortunately. Do you need the Diabell package? No, don't think that the deck needs it. However, it does help the deck immensely, and it only gets better post Phantom Nightmare when we do get more Snake Eye support. So, again, I know it kind of sucks because the Diabell cards are expensive. There are budget alternatives, but for the purposes of my particular deck, I am choosing to play the Diabellstar package. I've had it since Age of Overlord came out, picked up the whole pretty much set of stuff around the same time I got my Horus cards for my Spriggans deck. But anyway, I digress. One copy of Diabellstar the Black Witch. She's just an amazing extender for the deck and also helps you get into your Sinful Spoils card, which helps you summon out your Ponix since he's a level 1 fire. So obviously very good synergy there. Then we do play the 1 Snake Eye Ash, followed by the 1 Snake Eyes Flamberge Dragon. Now I have seen some people choose not to run this. However, I think that's a little foolish. These two cards do enable a really nice combo for the deck. Also, with Snake Eye Ash being another level 1 fire, it does give you another target to summon outside of Ponix off of your original Sinful Spoils spell card. So I like playing this package in the deck. And Flamberge Dragon just allowing you to extend when he's sent to graveyard by recovering even more fires out of the graveyard is just very, very strong in my opinion. And again, it only gets better post Phantom Nightmare once that set releases for us in the TCG, I believe around February. Up next, here's a little bit of spice. Now this is definitely a choice that I'm choosing to play. I have yet to see anybody else tech this out into their Fire King decks. And maybe it's because they haven't found the secret sauce, or maybe it's cope. I don't know. You guys let me know down in the comments. But I'm choosing to mainboard 2 copies of Mannadium Torrid. Now, if you look at this card, it's a Fire Level 2 Fairy Tuner effect monster, but it reads as follows. If you control Visa Starfrost or a monster with 1500 attack, 2100 defense, you can special this card from your hand. That effect's not important. What is important is the secondary effect, which states, if this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can special summon a Mannadium Tuner from your deck. That includes another copy of itself. So there's actually a really cool combo that you can pull off with your field spell, Fire King Islands, where you pop the Torrid to then search like the Sacred Garunix, and then because Torrid was destroyed, it'll summon another copy of itself from deck, and then Garunix will special itself from the hand since the the Torrid was a fire monster. And it basically gives you access into a level 10 Synchro play, which is effectively a Baron de Fleur. Which I think is kind of cool. I mean, maybe it's cope. You guys let me know. But I just think playing 2 copies of this in the main deck is fine. I've been testing it out, and it's been working out quite okay, honestly. I just thought it was a really cool tech choice, in my opinion. Maybe I'm onto something, or maybe it's just cope. You guys, like I said, let me know down in the comments. But anyway, moving along, we for the hand traps, we do play a playset of Ash Blossom. Also really good synergy because she is fire, so in a worst case scenario, you could pop her with the field spell, which we will talk about once we get to the spells. And then for the last monster in the main, 2 copies of DD Crow. I think DD Crow is still very good this format. There's a lot of decks that play out of the graveyard, including this deck. So if you are in the mirror match at locals, I think Crow is actually a very good hand trap to be mainboarding in my honest opinion. So just the 2 copies of Crow. Now we're going to move on to the spell cards, of which we are playing 2 copies of Fire King Sanctuary and 2 copies of Fire King Island. Sanctuary is brand new out of the structure. Island is their same field spell they've always had. Sanctuary, upon activation, lets you place Fire King Island directly from your deck, face up in your field zone. So pretty similar to the Libromancer origin story, how that can set the Libromancer first appearance from deck. Kind of similar as far as that's concerned. So Sanctuary somewhat acts like 2 additional copies of the field spell in a lot of ways. In addition to that, Sanctuary can protect Fire King Island from destruction once per turn by destroying a fire that you control or have in your hand. Also, something that I did find out is that if your opponent tries to Harpy's Feather Duster you, you can actually use Sanctuary to by destroying another fire in your hand or field to protect island, which is actually crazy. Even though the Sanctuary is marked for destruction, the reason why that works is apparently, from what I understand, it's because Sanctuary can choose to destroy a fire monster in the hand, which is an area that obviously Harpy's Feather Duster can't reach. It can't destroy things in the hand. So that's what I was told, but I just think that's a really cool interaction that I think a lot of people might not know. But anyway, in addition to all that stuff, Sanctuary allows you to Xyz summon if your opponent special summons a monster, which you can do during their turn. And there is a brand new Fire King extra deck monster that came in the structure deck that is very good for making on their turn. So, and then 2 copies of Fire King Island. One of the best cards in the theme, honestly. It lets you destroy a fire monster in your hand to add a Fire King monster from the deck to your hand. A very powerful effect that just enables the brand new Garunix, obviously. And yeah, I think the 2-and-2 ratio is perfectly fine. Again, you can search Sanctuary off of Ponix. The deck has a lot of consistency, so I think the 2-and-2 ratio is perfectly fine. Moving on though, playset of Fire Formation Tenki. This is used to search your Arvada, your Ringbali, or in a pinch, your Barong. But generally it's used to search Arvada. And then the fact that it stays on field as a continuous spell is nice for your Sinful Spoils package. Gives you an easy fodder to pitch for it. Or for the Snake Eye Ash, if need be. Then we play 1 copy of Fire King Skyburn, followed by 1 copy of Circle of the Fire Kings. I think 1-on-1 ratio is perfect. Skyburn is a quick play spell, allows you to target Fire Kings you control and cards your opponent controls and destroy them. Also, it can banish itself from the graveyard to protect a Fire King card you control from destruction, which I think is cool. And then Circle is also nice as a monster reborn. It pops a fire monster you control to special summon a fire monster from your graveyard, and because it's a quick play spell, you are able to use it in the battle phase to help push for that extra bit of damage and close out games if need be. So I think having them at 1-and-1 is perfectly fine, especially since we have Ponix to search them. Then obviously, like I said, we're on the Diabell package, so 3 Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils, plus the 1 original Sinful Spoils Snake Eye. Like I said, yes, I'm aware the engine is expensive. This is not a budget deck list, unfortunately, but I think moving forward, you're going to get a lot of value out of these cards. So if you do want to save up for them, I don't think it'd be a bad idea, in my honest opinion. And then to round out the last spell is 1 Called by the Grave to stop any pesky hand traps. And then speaking of traps, we only play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence to round out, again, our 41 card main deck. So that is my main deck. Now let's move into the extra deck, of which we are playing 2 copies of the brand new Xyz monster, Garunix Eternity Hyang of the Fire Kings. It is a generic rank 8 Pyro Xyz that, if it's Xyz summoned, you can destroy all other monsters on the field. So it's pretty much like a Black Rose that doesn't nuke itself. Well, except it only goes after monsters, not back row, so I guess that's a bad analogy, but you guys get the point. Anyway, you can make this on the opponent's turn with the help of your Fire King Sanctuary, their new continuous spell. So that's obviously a very crazy boss monster. In addition to that, you can detach a material, target a spell trap on the field, and destroy it. And if you do, this card gains 500 attack. And if this card is destroyed, while it had Xyz material, you can special summon Fire King monsters from your graveyard up to the number of material this card has. So it's an amazing boss monster. Like, generic decks, rank 8 decks can use it to like try and nuke the board. But if you play it in Fire Kings, you get so much more value, because not only can you get like the float effect and whatnot, I just think it's a very good rank 8 in my honest opinion. Obviously, this deck prides itself on destruction, but sometimes there's things that just can't be destroyed, and that's where Dingirsu comes in. So we play 1 copy of Dingirsu. Sometimes you just need that non-target, non-destruction removal, and Ding fills that role pretty nicely. Because we are playing the Mannadium Torrid in the main deck, which again is completely optional. If you guys don't want to run that card, you could just cut that for additional hand traps if you so wish. But because we are playing Mannadium Torrid, we are playing a Baron de Fleur in the extra deck, because we can go into it pretty easily, and it just gives the deck a much needed Omni Negate, because aside from Arvada, the deck doesn't actually have much negation as far as disruption goes. So we play the 1 Baron, and again, it is a flex spot. If you don't want to play the Torrid, cut it for hand traps, and then you can cut the Baron for any other extra deck card of your choice, like maybe Zeus or whatever you want to use. It's really up to you. And that rounds out the Xyzes and Synchros. Now we move on to the links, of which we play 1 copy of Link Haribo and 1 Relinquished Anima for our respective Link 1s. We can link the Ponix or the Snake Eye Ash away for either of these, and they're just both very useful cards. Anima, allowing you to suck up opponent's monsters, and then Link Haribo just being a Cyberse Dark monster that helps us make the Deco Talker Heat Soul, which is obviously very cool. Then for our Link 2s, we're on the Fire Charmer Hida, one copy of Salaman Great Sunlight Wolf, one copy of IP Masquerena, followed by one SP Little Knight. Like I said, this deck is not a budget list. I do apologize for those of you looking for a budget list. You know, obviously the Little Knight isn't required, but since I have one, obviously I'm going to play it because the card is just cracked. But again, the deck does not need a Little Knight. Again, if you want a more budget alternative, you don't want to run the Diablo package, you don't want to run the Little Knight, all those cards are easily cuttable for a Nadir Servant package if you so wish. But these are just really amazing Link 2s in my opinion. Obviously Hida and Sunlight Wolf have synergy because the deck's fire, and IP Masquerena and SP are just very good generic Link 2s in general. So we choose to play those for our Link 2s. Now moving on to our Link 3s, of which we play one Unicorn and one Heat Soul. The Unicorn's nice just to have in here, just to give us, again, non-destruction removal if we need it for any card on the field. Being able to target a card and shuffle it back into the deck is pretty good removal in my personal opinion. So we play the Unicorn, and then the Heat Soul is obviously really strong, given that it is a fire monster and gives us free draws every single turn. Then to round out the remaining extra deck, we play a few Link 4s, of which we have one copy of Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess, one Amphibious Swarm Ship Ambler Whale, followed by one Topologic Bomber Dragon. Now these, in my opinion, I've only seen a few people play the Ambler Whale, but I haven't seen people really play Apple or Bomber Dragon. I'm testing these in the extra deck, and I think they're very, very good, especially since you play Masquerena. We can use Masquerena to make Apple on the opponent's turn just to give us an additional negation. And then the Bomber Dragon is obviously really cracked, and I feel like it's an underutilized and often forgotten Link 4 monster. Pretty much does what our Xyz monster does. Whenever a monster is summoned to a zone a Link monster points to, you get to destroy all monsters in the main monster zone. That effect is not once per turn, and in addition to that, you can also burn your opponent when this card attacks an opponent's monster equal to the attack of the monster he's battling, which is really, really crazy. And since the Fire Kings just want to be destroyed anyway, you nuking the board over and over again really isn't a detriment to us. And then the Ambler Whale is again another overlooked Link 4 monster that has some really cool synergy with this deck, which again I can go into further detail with when we do the combos and test hands in another video. But yeah, so that's what I'm choosing to run for my extra deck. And then to finish out the profile, this is my side. Now I built this on a whim. Like, I'm not saying the side deck is the best optimized choice. I haven't been to locals in a while due to work, and again I do want to apologize for not having uploaded a video in at least a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. I've just been so busy with work, and there's just been a lot going on in my personal life. So for that, I do apologize for not maintaining a steady stream of content. But rest assured, I will be back at it again, bringing you guys, content on the regular basis. But so take this side deck with a grain of salt. I haven't been to locals recently to really get a feel for what the locals scene is like as far as the how the format looks, but I just put this together, based on just, the knowledge that I have as a player. But we sideboard 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird. We side 2 copies of Doggoran the Mad Flame Kaiju, just to deal with stuff that, can't be destroyed or can't be targeted, just annoying stuff to get over. Plus, it is a fire monster, so in a pinch, we could use the field spell to blow it up if we need to jumpstart our plays. In addition to that, we also sideboard the 1 Kurikara Divine Carnate, just because a Snake Eye Ash on summon allows us to search for a level 1 fire monster, and we can search the Kurikara through that. And then we also sideboard the 3rd DD Crow for matchups that are more graveyard centric. Then for the rest of the side, we just have 3 copies of Dark Hole, very great for going second and breaking boards. Also not once per turn, so like if you activate it and it gets negated, you have another one. By all means, go all in. Then we do play a second copy of Fire King Skyburn. I think this card is great against back row matchups. Giving us access to more spell trap destruction is really good. We also side 1 copy of the Sinful Spoils of Subversion Snake Eye, just because we do play the Diabell package and that we can set that card off Diabell Star. And then to round out the last card on the side is just a playset of Torrential Tribute for those games where we are going to be going first. Torrential is just another amazing disruptive card, preventing our opponent from establishing any type of board, because we're constantly just going to be nuking it every single time they overextend. But with that being said, guys, that's going to wrap up my 41 card Fire King deck list post Fire King structure deck. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of some of my tech choices. And like I said, I'm going to be bringing you guys really cool and amazing content coming soon. Especially, I'm going to be bringing you guys the combos and test hands for my Fire King deck list. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you're subbed so you don't miss out when I upload that video. But with that being said, this is Nick, hitting that end phase. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.